It's a Bitcoin podcast. The only one that's making your money is you. Listen to the Bitcoin podcast. So hold on and listen to the Bitcoin podcast.
Whoa. Man,
Yeah, that's new.
that is
Yeah.
new.
That's new. We got a
So if you're
big.
listening to the podcast, you didn't see that, but it was
No.
a highlight of what our listeners are saying about us on Apple
Mhm.
iTunes reviews, which was
Yeah.
a positive thing.
Yeah. There's one of them that wasn't too positive from a guy named Wartime that I think wants
There's a
to
couple.
murder us.
Oh, so he's clearly like
Yeah.
not a regular person.
I think he wants to murder us, I think. I got concerned. Like, I thought everything was okay, but then I read the tweets again and I was like, special thanks.
He's weird.
Does he want to murder us? So, anyways, you know. Whoa, what's all this stuff? Oh, okay. So sorry guys, I'm getting distracted. That is a big link. So what is going on? Do we have glitches in the Matrix? Anyways, welcome to the Bitcoin podcast, everyone. I'm the host that talks first, D.
I am the host of Talk Second, Dr. Corey Petty.
And I'm Batman. I'm host number 3.
If you're watching the video, you can see Jessie has. He's got
Everyone
the Snapchat filter, so he's going to be going wild with his video today.
Everyone knows that you're Jessie now. If you're gonna be Batman, you got to say, "Oh, I'm host number 3."
Okay.
Who's
Yeah.
that? Who said that? I don't know who said that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, there's been a lot since we released an episode on this feed, right? And what I mean by that is we have premium content now. So if you hadn't heard an episode in 2 weeks, it's only because you don't have the privilege of that primo content, baby, right? And you can't get that privilege because Jesus Christ, where's this going?
Continue.
You continue. Sure. I bet you that's how everyone feels when Batman rolls up on the scene.
Yeah,
Like,
continue.
hey, Commissioner. So let me see. What the fuck? Continue. Oh, okay. All right. Anyways,
I'm listening.
so I can't even concentrate now. Yes, we did a premium show, and the only way I had access to that premium show is by becoming a patron.
Oh,
Oh,
slow.
hold on. I'll do
Slow
it.
with
I'll
the
do it.
responses.
Let's see.
So check your privilege and go get some more.
There it goes.
There it is. The only
Bam.
way to do
Okay.
it is becoming a patron, right? So some lucky patrons got some juicy content, baby. More juicy than a
was fun, though.
well-cooked medium rare
We
steak.
did a meta review of our first episode.
How'd that go?
Absolutely.
That's
The
fun.
meta episodes.
Listening
So-
to ourselves talk about stuff back in
Mhm.
June 2015
Mhm.
about all this stuff and where we got started and why we were here.
Mhm.
Like, it's funny to see like talking about our interactions of like price movement back then and how happy we were with like stability of like was like $300.
Oh,
Yeah. Just the
And we're like-
casual conversations about it.
Yes. So like a lot of the stuff hasn't changed, just the price.
Batman, why are you reaching under the cowl to scratch your lips? Like, that seems like it's excessive work.
Batman's mask isn't working properly today.
So, anyways, you can get access to the meta episodes as you become a patron, right? The meta episodes are designed specifically for Jesus Christ, specifically so that you can get an understanding of what crypto was like back in 2015. Right, like what were the projects that were hidden or missing? What were the types of people that were in the space? Right, and it's just like an audible
What were the
history of things.
controversies? What were we worried about? What
Yeah.
were we thinking this future was going to look like? Like,
A bulk of it was block size, right?
there's
Jesus
a good
Christ.
section of time when we talked about block size a lot.
I remember one time where I was like, I don't ever want to say block size again. I don't want to say it. But for those of you not privy to what I mean when I say block size and why that was such a big deal, then you're probably newer. And welcome to the shit show. So, anyways,
What are we talking about today?
are we gonna do your thing? We're gonna ask him how Joe's weeks were.
How was your week, D?
It's halfway through the week.
Yeah, well, the first half of the week has gone pretty well.
How was half of your week?
Pretty good.
I got no complaints.
I did fall down the stairs today, so that's a negative part.
I'm just
Fell
glad
down
you're
my
not hurt.
stairs. My dog left a rope, like a chew rope, on the stairs. I was walking down with a drink and a full bowl of Chinese food, and I slid down the stairs, about halfway down the stairs, and then shattered both the glass in the bowl and food and drink everywhere. Good stuff.
Damn. Yeah.
I know I'm maturing because if it were younger me, I would have laughed profusely. But instead, I instantaneously was like, I'm glad you're not dead, bro. That's a serious thing. It's a serious
That's how
thing.
you know you're
Calling.
getting old. You're like, be careful.
Yeah.
Die that way. But you're like younger. They're like, ha, you're fine.
Even if you would have like broken your ankle, I would have been like, haha, noob.
Yeah.
Learn how to
Like,
use stairs.
You fell down my
bro.
stairs in the house I lived in before this house. And like you put your foot through my wall.
And I broke my toe. Yeah.
What the fuck?
It was crazy. He had these crazy circular stairs that went
Yeah.
straight down. So like I was like, all right, I'm gonna run downstairs real quick. And like I just remember like
severe.
looking back for a second, and the next thing I knew, I was like down, out,
Stairs were
man
treacherous.
down, man down. I was missing a sock. There was a hole in the wall.
Yeah, you lost the sock.
How many, like, okay, so how far down the stairwell are you guys falling? Like, you're just missing like a few steps, or you like falling the whole thing?
I fell down. So there's probably 30 stairs. I have no idea how many stairs are on my stairwell, but like
Okay.
half. of them.
30 stairs.
You went
I-
down half.
I went down half of them,
What the fuck?
but like sliding on my back, right? Like I laid on my back and
okay.
slid down the stairs until I
Okay.
caught myself. So I got like rug burn on my forearm, and my hip is a little sore, but I'm
Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
I fell down a spiral staircase, so it was straight down, baby.
Yeah, I think it was like treacherously steep and circular, and so it was,
Yeah. But anyways, enough about stairs and falling down them. Let's get into today's show. So we're going to talk about Bitcoin at the very top, baby. It happened. It happened, guys. Everybody in crypto knows what happened, but we know what happened. El Salvador, a country, a bona fide country, has said that Bitcoin is going to be our legal tender. That's bananas, right? The reason why it's bananas is because it said something that we have been saying for years and knew was going to happen. We just know who's going to be the first country to bite it. You know, who's going to be the first person to say, like, yeah, this is legal tender. You got to accept it if someone wants to pay with it. It's a big deal. I see you guys are related.
still a pretty big deal. I mean, I think one of the bigger things that I mentioned, hashtag not investment advice, go talk to your tax lawyer, whatever, is because it's now legal tender in a different country, it can no longer be taxed as capital gains.
How does that work?
Because you can't tax capital gains on legal tender.
You can't. It has to
I
be
think
an
there's
income
something along
tax.
the lines of that. Like I was reading something that I was like, oh wow, this is huge. Because it's a legal tender, it now falls under the jurisdiction of not being able to be taxable by capital gains, as capital gains, only for Bitcoin, if that's the case.
Is that for every country, or that's just for
No, like
America?
in United, well, it's like at least like in the United States, right?
Okay.
Which is all I give a shit about. Just kidding. It's most relevant to me and a good portion of the people in the United States which is a good portion of the investors of cryptocurrency. I think that, and once again,
Why does that keep
go
popping up?
talk to
Stop
your
putting
tax
that-
accountant to make sure this is real. You can't be charged capital gains on legal tender, regardless of what country that legal tender is. If that's the case, that's a pretty big boon for investing and using and doing a business with Bitcoin in particular.
I mean, Japan
look it up.
uses
I'll look it up
Bitcoin
while we
as
talk.
legal tender, right? So like, how
I
does
don't-
that work?
I don't think it was to the effect of like how El Salvador
Okay.
did it though. El Salvador made a show about it,
Hmm.
right? And then we saw this cascading of South American countries that were like, "Hold up, El Salvador, you're not going to be the coolest person in the room. We're getting on the train too." Right? So we had Paraguay, we had Brazil,
Wait, they also.
Argentina. Yeah, they're
had
all
one?
saying like, "Yeah, we're going to do it too.
Oh,
We're going to do that too." So it's a huge moment for Bitcoin history, right? Like, one, we should probably get a little bit more information about the Japanese, the Japan, like if they're doing it as legal tender or not. But El Salvador is adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, and that is dope. In fact, I want to read a slight part of the article. This is coming from Cointelegraph, which, funny story, we used to be sponsored by them. Not sponsored by them. We used to be their podcast. That was
Or
many
what was
moons ago.
Cointelegraph?
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, we got a couple graphics of us in that
So-
that their characteristic style.
I'm just going to read a few lines here. The cryptocurrency space and wider economic community continue to laud a historic move by El Salvador to recognize Bitcoin as legal tender. The Central American country has become the first in the world to do so. Still up in the air. And the move has also spurred a handful of other Central South American countries to begin taking steps toward the same eventuality. Unsurprisingly, the move has made waves in the cryptocurrency community, with Bitcoin proponents in particular highlighting the significance of the legislative change and driving cryptocurrency adoption, right? So the overarching response has been positive, which is true. So there's also some neat stuff going on. Like, it's evolving really fast. Here's the president of not Nicaragua, El Salvador. He said, "I've just instructed the president of a geothermal electric company to put up a plan to offer facilities for Bitcoin mining with very cheap, 100% clean, 100% renewable, zero emissions energy from our volcanoes." Right? So it's kind of neat. Like, we're seeing this evolution take place across the world, which I'm not going to say I called it, but I did. And mining, the incentives to mine are so great that if you can find access to cheap and clear energy, you're going to do it. You're going to mine. It doesn't make any sense not to. Right? If I'm a person that knows I have easy access to cheap energy, I'm going to mine. Right? That's going to be a new thing moving forward. So they're literally taking the geothermal energy coming out of not literally, I hate saying that word. I say that word so much now these days. They're taking the geothermal activity coming out from those volcanoes, those big ass gas vents or whatever, popping a power plant on it and popping a mining rig on it, and boom.
Popping a power plant on.
That's how it goes. That's how when I played SimCity, or when you play StarCraft, you see that big green oozy thing, you drop a power plant on it. So
Texas is getting a pretty big influx of mining as well.
absolutely, man. Like, I don't know.
Don't they already have power issues? It seems like it's going to exacerbate them.
No, I bet you they'll fix them. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, sure.
I bet
Sounds
you they'll.
about right.
I bet you they'll figure it out real quick.
Bet
If
they
we-
won't.
If we want that hot profit coming in from the mining, baby, we're gonna have to figure out this grid shit that we got going
While
on.
you were saying that, by the way, I looked up a couple articles, one from Decrypt that talked about El Salvador's legal tender move. It says unlikely to change tax implications on U.S. residents because of details. I invite you to go look up Decrypt and read that article.
Everybody worry about the tax man, baby.
It may, yeah. I mean, as an investor, you should be worried about paying proper taxes on what you're investing in.
So,
And like, because particularly in the U.S., one, we're like incredibly litigious. Means like people will sue for anything, and we have very like muddled guidelines around how to treat this stuff, and the guidelines tend towards overtaxing it in ways that don't make real sense to how it's actually being used. In my opinion, it keeps a lot of people from using it and businesses from incorporating it into how they kind of do their business. And we've talked about this in the past. Like, if you listen to the meta episode, we talked about this on the first episode of this podcast. Like, it takes businesses to use this stuff. within each other, and not just like I accept it and then I immediately convert it into crypto or into fiat. Businesses using it, keeping it on the books, and then using it for business to business transactions for this stuff to like really take hold.
Yeah. In order for that to
That's not
happen,
going to happen.
well, in order for that to happen is a monumental, astronomical purchasing power of 1 Bitcoin. Right? You're going to have to, in order to be okay with losing fractions of your Bitcoin, they're going to have to be small fractions. Right? They're going to have to be really tiny amounts.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if I'm going to be okay with losing my Bitcoin, I only want to lose a little bit. So if businesses are going to be doing business in Bitcoin because it's stable enough, right? And because there's enough of it out there.
Stable enough, who cares?
Right. So it goes back to that old, like, that math, that silly math people like to do is like, if everyone on the planet had some Bitcoin, everyone would only have 0.00076 whatever Bitcoin. So you do the math. And it's like such a memeable thing to say. Right. So first of all, not everyone's going to have Bitcoin. Second of all is, and if everybody only had 0.007, that means we're going to have to go really deep into Satoshi land to start denominating things into Satoshis for people to be comfortable with giving up any amount of Bitcoin. Right. The value is like, I mean, one Satoshi would have to be $1, like something crazy like that. Right. In order to have that much commerce done with Bitcoin. So, yeah. So overall, the El Salvador thing is pretty big for Bitcoin. And another thing that was big for Bitcoin was Taproot, which I don't know if you've been in the space long enough. Bitcoin gets about one upgrade every decade. So,
That's not that off.
it's not that far, baby. We're sitting at 2 upgrades in a decade. So
I'm looking at our Slack and trying to find that website that has the acceptance rate.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like it's been confirmed.
It's locked in. Taproot's locked in.
Taproot.watch. Thank you, Alicia. I appreciate that.
It's locked in. It's just not going to be activated until I think in the fall.
Taproot
I think
is locked in
until September or something like that. So for those of you that know, Taproot is a soft fork. It's a soft fork, I believe.
They're all soft forks. Everything in Bitcoin is a soft fork these days. They're so anti-hard fork that I don't think it's going to be like. And also because of the way SegWit was introduced, it gave them a lot of more like potentially safe options for introducing soft forks into the protocol, right? Which is in some instances nice. I think people like Vitalik would argue that's a bad thing because he thinks it's more coercive than hard forks, but whatever.
How many, Jessie, this is a question to you. Do you prefer a soft fork or a hard fork?
Probably a hard fork.
Why?
I mean, in terms of what? I guess I should have asked that. In terms of getting more value, like in terms of being able to like have more money from having Bitcoin, or for like what does it mean?
Just like in general, like, you know,
What's
like,
safer?
For the value of the community as a whole, soft forks. For value of an individual forking tokens, hard forks. Why? Because it's less contentious. You don't split the community.
Who's to say the fork is contentious?
Was the last fork contentious? The last hard fork.
And Bitcoin,
the SegWit thing. Yeah. So that's what I mean.
But Ethereum has gone through multiple hard forks, and only one of them has been contentious.
The Ethereum Classic split with the DAO reversal. So yeah, I would say that hard forks.
Bitcoin's gone through multiple hard forks in the past too. Only really one of them was contentious, unless you talk about all of the different hard forks from Bitcoin Cash once it's separated. That then went into like a milieu of a bunch of different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and hard forks.
I think soft forks are preferable to answer D's question in terms of community.
A lot less sweat. Whole lot less sweat.
I prefer hard forks, personally.
Yeah. A little bit more sweat with the hard forks, but probably get it done just a little bit better, to tell you the truth.
I think
But you
people
like
should be
you
able
like
to exit
Vitalik's
if they
stance,
want
right?
to. I'm mostly aligned with what Vitalik says in terms of it's a very hard decision, and it gives people the option to opt out if they choose to. And it's what's interesting about doing hard forks is that if it is contentious and it hard forks and the old chain survives and continues to develop across it, you have two tokens that represent two different communities, but because of the way this technology works, those communities are kind of overlapping. You don't have to be in one or the other if you don't want to be. So it allows for larger, especially in, I think, in this time period of the technology, it's more important to experiment in different methods of scale and expansion than to say, like, this is the only way, and to like build a cult following around one specific ideology. It's more important to experiment on how you scale these networks and then build more bridges and interoperability across the networks such that people can kind of dip their toes in what they think is useful to them and exit when they want to. And if you only have one option, then you're stuck with the same dumb shit. We're just like, if I don't like this, I can't do anything about it because there's nothing else to do. And hard forks give you that option. It allows people to exit or go with a specific one. And then once that's over, then you're able to expand the rules. So if you think about it from like a fundamental standpoint, a hard fork is an expansion of rules in consensus, whereas a soft fork is a further constraining of rules.
So let me ask you this: like, why not just start your own, like just fork the Ethereum code base and start your own Ethereum, like Binance did with BSC?
Well, Binance was able to do it because they had a tremendous following of users, and they were able to force those users into using their chain because the backend just started using it. Now, if you're able to have a giant community and your community supports such a thing, then it's a reasonable thing to do.
Binance,
Maybe,
more
depending.
like
But
China.
Let me ask you this:
Binance isn't decentralized in any way, shape, or form.
What would
it may
you
be
choose?
valuable, but it's just all Binance.
Would you choose soft fork, hard fork, or complete new chain?
It depends on the context. Like there isn't an answer. There isn't like this is the way to go.
Yeah,
It's depending upon your situation. This is probably the like most reasonable way to go based on the community that's using whatever technology you're talking about.
so let's talk
like-
about the two general people, right? You either have developers who are like really contributing to the project, or you have people who are just writing it because of the value. Now, for each type of person, which one's better? Like for a developer who has different viewpoints, which one's better, a soft fork, hard fork, or his own chain? And likewise, the same question goes for the layperson who's just chasing money. Which one is better for them, soft fork, hard fork, or new chain?
I think the person who's just chasing money, they don't have a lot of opinion that should really be weighted very much because they don't really like. They're just trying to guess which way the price is going to go up or down.
People are chasing money. It's like if what happens is out of their control because they're not doing anything.
Yeah,
is a hard fork is best because a hard fork is best if the chain survives, right? If it's contentious and it actually separates into two communities and both those communities grow, then they end up with two tokens based on doing nothing. A new chain is very difficult because you have to garner a community around that new chain and build it and build things around it. A soft fork doesn't change anything. It just stays the same and hopefully makes the utility of that chain better. And so if you're a maximalist, then you want to stick on the same thing. You don't care about other stuff. You're just going to sell it. It's really about like, so if you look at like from a developer standpoint, maybe they're going to do whatever enables them to build whatever they want to build.
how much fork money do you think these companies are sitting on?
Coinbase,
These centralized exchanges, Coinbase, like. Remember, like, I don't love how Coinbase operates, but I like that they do it so brazenly. Like, Coinbase is like, you know what? We're going to tell them about this first hard fork money and give it to them. But all the rest of the hard fork money, we're not going to even bring it up. We're not even going to.
You need some type of threshold of legitimacy to
Yeah.
introduce it into the platform. And
Arguably, you don't.
I
Look
would
at
say
Shiba,
that threshold
right?
in Coinbase is getting lower and lower and lower based on
Right.
the coins they're introducing, right?
They said that would. I mean, we could see that coming.
Do you think people can file like a class action lawsuit for like, let's say, Bitcoin
Yes.
Satoshi's Vision, Bitcoin
Mhm.
Diamond, Bitcoin Platinum?
I'm sure people have.
Absolutely. It's their money, right? It's their money.
No, it's not.
Well, sorry. If you go to the laws of crypto,
Like,
it's
Coinbase doesn't
Coinbase's
have those
money
things
because
insured.
they have the private keys.
I guarantee if you, I would put money that if you read the product, the privacy
Terms
policy
and
or like terms
conditions.
of service, terms and
Mhm.
conditions of Coinbase back then,
Yeah.
it was like, we have the keys. We don't have to give you anything, like as a custodial service, because that part wasn't insured.
Mm-hmm.
The only part that was insured was you keeping US dollars in Coinbase. And so the
Yeah,
rest of
yeah.
it was like Wild West.
I think I agree with you. It's
Mm.
super context dependent because, like, you saw Roger Ver, right? He wanted, just because of an ideology difference, he hard forked Bitcoin, right? So, like,
Well, he didn't do
He
it.
was the voice of the community.
oh,
that
I
did it.
thought he orchestrated it, and
I mean,
he
I'm
was
sure
the
I'm
voice.
sure he was a huge part of that orchestration because he was
Yeah.
the loudest voice with a lot of money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know, man. Like, in the early days,
Hmm.
if a here's the problem. What the eventual problem of this is that, say you have a tremendous amount of societal infrastructure that's dependent upon a given blockchain,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
then what's best? Because you have a lot of people using something they don't understand, and all of the infrastructure underneath it depending upon a single source of truth. Now, if that forks, that's going to cause a lot of problems.
I think
Right.
at some point, like, let's say that, like, remember, we never had the conversation about permissioned blockchains, the ones that are patented, and I would wonder if it's like those will never hard fork, right? It's just not going to be legally possible, and so it actually protects everybody, all the lay people who are just investing in the underlying asset, because everything will be like a soft fork, right?
No.
No.
I mean, legal possibilities and real life application are two different things we're talking about, though. They could fork it, might not be legal. They'll fork it, right? Just like we know that there's like billions of dollars worth of dark
means that,
market
like,
money out there. There's rules in that
There's
market.
the fork of a chain and there's a fork of a code base, right?
Mhm.
Like, people forked the code base of Bitcoin, changed a couple parameters, and made things like Litecoin, Alien Coin, Dogecoin, all those things, right? Like, that was the first initial shitcoin endeavor.
Hmm.
Was people forking the Bitcoin code base, changing a couple parameters, and starting their own network. Or you could fork a chain, whereas that you keep the history of a given chain up to a certain point, and then separate the network based on a rule set change where transactions on one chain are invalid for the other.
Hmm.
And
So
there's some weird subtleties that happen depending on the type of change you have there, but like, that can happen basically regardless of the data structure. Like, regardless, the consensus is what dictates like what's the valid chain, and that can change based on what your consensus decides and the rule set that they all agree upon. Like, for Bitcoin, like the initial separation of Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, it was basically just two different minor rule sets and a group of nodes that said this is the chain or this is the chain, and then those slowly diverged over time. If you remember, for those who are listening, like when it first separated, there was a lot of problems with like replay attacks, where like if I send a Bitcoin transaction, it may get played on both chains because the chains were almost identical.
Yeah, everybody was warning everybody to wait for like a few, tens of thousands of blocks to propagate, so that they would be more separate.
And so like that can become a serious problem later on down the line if we have a tremendous amount of like societal infrastructure depending upon these things.
That's you're leading me to my question, which is like, won't the U.S. because CBDCs are coming, right? We don't know. It's probably going to be like a bespoke chain that they make. And
Bespoke.
yeah.
Sorry.
So how will they, like, let's say they have like a US dollar and whatever the moniker will be for USDC from the US government. If it goes into, let's say, like if there's a wrapped version of that on Ethereum and Ethereum itself hard forks in the future, how does that work? Like, does the money get duplicated?
It depends on the chain and the consensus. So for most of the proof of stake type consensus, right? Those all have real finality. So like there is no probabilistic finality, meaning that like over time, like once a thing is confirmed, it is confirmed forever. If you think about Bitcoin and the way proof of work chains work, and like so current Ethereum and Bitcoin and a lot of other chains, it's a probabilistic finality that can change over time and can fork based on that rule set. And so like forking is a very, very different thing upon those two different sets of like how you come to agreement on what is valid. So, and for most of the chains out there, and as things move close, like more and more, like things transition more and more over to proof of stake as it becomes more valid, the concept of a fork is gonna be removed. Like the threat of a fork is going to be removed because that you have hard finality on what the network agrees upon, as opposed to like this probabilistic finality of proof of work.
So if Ethereum forked right now, like let's say enough of the hash rate decided we don't want to do ETH2 POS stuff, and would that mean that like, and let's say it was like, I don't know, a good enough percentage of the community that it was as viable as Ethereum Classic. So for all intents and purposes, you have Ethereum Classic based on a fork of current Ethereum. Would all the USDC and all that USDT running on Ethereum and all the other ERC20s and all the NFTs, everything, would it get duplicated?
Yeah.
So wouldn't that be a problem?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
As far as I can tell, yeah.
Yeah, there'd be a massive problem, Jesse. Be a massive
I don't
cataclysmic problem.
I don't really see that happening.
The reason that's not going to happen is because really it's the Ethereum community. It's how they get down. Like they move as a unit, right?
But they didn't always.
They're not as nearly as adversarial as.
Well, that's also like this interesting part about proof of stake systems is that at least for the traditional proof of stake, not talking about Avalanche, you know who all the validators are.
Yeah.
And that allows you to do a lot better job of figuring out who's like defining a rule set on how rules change, like a process on how rules change, and then making sure the signaling happens appropriately. With Bitcoin, you don't, like with proof of work systems, like true proof of work systems, you don't know who the miners are and what power they have until after they mine a block. And there's still some guessing games involved. And so signaling has this like kind of weird, ambiguous nature to it. Whereas most proof of stake systems, because they're registered identities on the blockchain, it's a very strong signal. And if there's a process involved on how things get done, then you're pretty confident that when you make a rule set change, things are not going to like turn into two separate networks based on contention.
So something can be said, Jesse, about that contention. And that is just from Vitalik himself. And he was talking with NASDAQ, or there's an interview from NASDAQ.com in regards to something that he said. He's like, he admits that Ethereum 2.0 is delayed. And he said, it's not because of the technical problems. It's because of the people problems, right? And that's something that I think people dramatically underestimate undertakings like crypto projects are, is that like, if you're going to do this in perpetuity, it's your life, right? So what Vitalik's probably like kind of gleaning into is that like this stuff is delayed because my friends, when we went hard in the paint last time making this, now they have like families and obligations and all kinds of shit going on.
The ecosystem is much larger than it used to be. And
just the people making it though, that's the same people. Like,
no, it's not. It's absolutely not.
So you got more behavior. At the end of the day, behavior dynamics have a much, much larger effect on the progression of these projects than like a lot of people in crypto would like to probably admit. And that's what causes these delays. That's why projects start and stop and stall, is that, people's lives change. And so who's working on the shit when your life changes, right? Like that's just the natural That's a natural thing that happens in life.
I don't
So
know if
ET
that's what's happening though.
why's your what happened to your video?
There it goes back.
I didn't read the whole article. The whole article, he says, that was just one snippet of it. He said one of the biggest problems is not the technical problems; it's related with people. We've had a lot of internal team conflicts in the past 5 years.
Well, it's not. We'll take Ethereum East 2 as an example, right? It's incredibly inclusive in that there's a lot of different co-opetition groups that have made the clients that run the network, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of different people who are coordinating together to build different software that runs the same rule set that runs ETH 2.0. So you have like Prism, Nimbus, Lighthouse, Teku. Like there's a few others that basically run the software that run the network. For Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin D. Sure, you have like Bcoin, maybe another one, but mostly it's Bitcoin D. To be real. And so you have to make sure that these things work well together, and that the way that things are getting done are all like the type of network that these teams are building software for work for. And so when you introduce a change, it's like that's not going to work because of this, and this. And the more inclusive you are, the more difficult it is to come to agreement on a unified set of rules. So like when he talks about social problems, he's talking about the concept of when you're incredibly inclusive and you want to try and gather as many opinions and voices as you can that care about this stuff. The more you include, the more difficult it is to come upon a rule set that works for everyone.
Right. It's not the life cycle of the individuals, though. I believe it's more of the differences in how people want.
It's just a
things to get done.
complexity issue. Like,
yeah,
what's the set of rules that everyone's happy with? That conversation gets more and more difficult as you include more and more people.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
So if we were to just say like, hey, this is the thing, and everyone's like, yeah, it's the thing, we could build that. That's fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of the time delay is us coming up with like, this is how it should work. This is what we're going to go with. Let's build that.
So at the end of the day, like ETH2, like is not guaranteed to go forward as a unit.
We have the beacon chain that's live. That's already going, right? So that has some functionality associated with it. That has
there's no guarantees.
It's got a random oracle. It's got a way of like assigning people to various like validation duties. It has it has a part of the functionality that all of ETH2 wants to do, and that's live and on mainnet with a lot of real value in it. How you move forward is still subject to change based on what the community feels is the best way forward, that not only like gets us from 1 to 2 fast and safely, but also allows us to grow as this ecosystem grows in a manner that doesn't like, because like what happened with Ethereum is that it got real big real fast, and then they realized some of the decisions they made in the beginning were kind of stupid, but they're stuck with them. They're ossified into it because that's how everything works.
That's also
making breaking changes has a huge implication on the community. So
I feel like that's common though.
Yeah, but like I think it's harder for blockchains because you don't want to be like, some decisions may keep you from ever scaling because you can't change them because so many things are dependent upon it. And I think what's happening now is that most people are trying to keep that from happening in the like far future, so that there's a potential that Ethereum could be the main blockchain of cryptocurrency. My personal opinion is that's not the case. It's just going to be one of the larger ones. But their goal is to say, like, we want to be general purpose, so we want to allow for everyone to do things, which makes it difficult to come together on a like unified set of rules and how that scales over time.
Like, I have to say, and I do say it quite frequently, at least once or twice a month, that to all you devs listening and all you crypto builders listening, you just can't overlook the human factor of this stuff. Like, there's going to be people that don't want to use the best stuff just because they're that type of person. Everybody knows those kinds of people. Like for example, I know several people in my life that will refuse to watch the best movie that came out that year because everybody went and saw it, and they're real hipster about it, and they're just gonna
If
be
they
like,
like it, I'm not gonna. Like it.
"Oh, if everybody likes it, I don't like it. That movie is too whatever." Right? There's people out there that won't wear a really, really, really nice shoe because it has a Nike check on it. They only wear Reebok, right? There's a human factor to this stuff. So I think, and then like also the fickle nature of humanity, like Corey said, like I don't think the Ethereum one, I think it's short sighted. If any Ethereum founder developed Ethereum without anticipating rapid influxes of users randomly, then that's just even I could fucking. I wish I were standing in the room. Like, what do you mean you're not anticipating for that? Like, if you want this to be as awesome as it is, then you've got to anticipate that one night you might have 10,000 users and the next night you'll have 500. I mean, that's all software companies plan for that. Any good one does. It's not like you're just going to like, I'm going to make this for 15 people and then we'll just pick it up right there. You got to go with scale has to be at the forefront of every conversation if you're making software. So that's what I don't understand why they would not design it that way. I hope that they didn't. I hope that they actually did plan for this. But naivety. Sorry. I couldn't help myself.
So let me ask you, like, this question kind of gets hopefully to the heart of POS. It doesn't matter how, I guess let me see how I can condense this down. You're only going to go as fast as your slowest validator that routes the most traffic.
What?
So, for instance, we were talking about like infrastructure costs, like physical equipment costs. Exactly. And it's that idea that like if we are, depending on the consensus mechanism and depending on like, whatever, every blockchain is different in terms of how they weight validators, in terms of how they get to some sort of finality of the next block. Aren't you going as fast as the slowest equipment that is permissioned?
I'm not sure if networks work that way.
No.
It's like for some protocols, there's just a threshold. You need to be able to handle this many transactions, like messages per second. If you meet that threshold, you're fine.
And
so
so
it either doesn't work or it does work. And some, it's you're going at the slowest speed. That's heavily dependent upon consensus.
So like for ETH2, like what I'm trying to peel apart some of like the non-technical and trying to get a little bit to the technical. So like, is there like this idea that we want Ethereum to be decentralized in such a way that you can run it on like a low power processor, like a Raspberry Pi, and the design decisions kind of surrounding the way you create like these different ETH2 implementations kind of restrict how fast I guess that there are design decisions where you exchange speed for the whole community, for everybody to be able to participate. And it's something like that, I guess.
So it's hard to make this argument for across all consensus mechanisms because it's different for like proof of work.
Right.
So if you look at like if you're looking at like the big block versus small block argument in Bitcoin, and then like, what was it? Craig Wright's CSV, Satoshi's Vision or whatever. CSV. So he went like the full clip spectrum on one side of the spectrum of like massive blocks and only a few validators that can handle that type of processing. And then the Bitcoin proper's design of keep them really small and then build layer 2s on top of them such that passing information on the network is really easy and it's more amenable to more people being able to afford the hardware to process these transactions and have the bandwidth to do it. For proof of stake, it's mostly around like traditional Byzantine fault tolerant algorithms that are just like if you have the bandwidth to pass this many messages around, then you can pretty much do it. And now like the consensus doesn't work once you go over like 100 actual participants, validators. That's why you have like delegated proof of stake, because the number of messages you have to pass gets like unwieldy and too much in like a global network. And so like how things scale as the number of validators increases, or like the required hardware for participating,
Mm-hmm.
which is like kind of Bitcoin and BS and proof of work systems, is very different. And the goal, in my opinion, if you want to stick with the original ideals of cryptocurrency, is to allow as many people as possible to passively participate in consensus.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you don't end up with this like miners as a subgroup that have overwhelming powers in how the blockchain gets produced.
Okay, I see.
And there's very few things that actually kind of get that done.
So what's the proportion of like participant nodes to like nodes that actually do validation, like on say ETH2?
I don't know. Most of the so like if you're running an ETH2 node, you have quite a bit locked up. So 32 ETH, which is a substantial investment. Like that those are going to serve as the majority of the nodes that are serving data for the rest of the network. There's not a lot of reason to run. I mean, there may be a reason later on down the line once we have state data to run a beacon chain node that isn't validating.
Yeah.
How those nodes work out later on down the line is interesting. It's like there's a whole pathway of like what data you're actually paying attention to.
Because like for instance,
because you have two different scaling costs. There's a lot of different scaling costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's participating in consensus, just that, right? That has its own scaling cost depending upon what kind of consensus it is. For Bitcoin, it means I need to scale the mining hardware that I have to make it relevant, and that's a whole economic arguments, and we go into months and months of conversation about that. For most of the proof of stake stuff, it's mostly like the upfront capital cost of putting things at stake. So like for F2, 32 ETH per validator. That's capital that I'd put up. The hardware associated with that isn't that big a deal. Like
so there's not like a certain amount of throughput that the validator has. Like you can do 32 ETH on a Raspberry Pi, and there's no like you have to maintain a certain amount of currently. So they could jack that up.
That's what I mean. Like that's what I mean. And as you scale the number of validators that you're actually running, that doesn't have a lot of that doesn't make the beacon chain node, your validator node, work much harder.
Okay.
Right? Just running a beacon chain node, keeping track of things, is most of the work. Participating in being a validator on a beacon chain node, you can have like 30 to 100 validators on a single beacon chain node without making it sweat too much. So just participating in consensus, right, doesn't increase the hardware costs of scaling as you increase the number of validators in the network.
I think I didn't know what a beacon chain. I don't know what. So the beacon chain. There's only one, right?
There's one beacon chain.
Yeah.
But like that's one part. Like participating in consensus has its own scaling considerations.
Gotcha.
The rest of that is state data, which is drastically different.
Okay.
And for things like Ethereum, that has to keep track of smart contracts and all their history of state data and all the interactions that happen across all those things. That makes things incredibly more complicated and does scale based on what you're looking at. So the moment you include the data structure and all of its history is the moment you start having to really consider resource costs. And that's like, big servers of SSD hardware. You look at like Filecoin. Well, Filecoin's a bit different, but like that's kind of why Bitcoin's nice in a way, is because all it gives a shit about is UTXOs. The state is UTXOs. That doesn't grow that fast because it can't do that much. But like Ethereum state data, that's huge. Like running an archive node, it's kind of difficult. It requires some hardware.
So I got a segue, guys.
Go for it.
We got a segue into the interview.
Is that your segue?
Well, you guys are going on and on. We gotta.
You had questions. I'm answering.
I got a show to run.
I like
baby.
these answers to my questions.
I got a show to run. Oh, we don't have the interview clip, so that's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. We can keep going. Never mind. It's all good.
That'll get clipped in for the podcast, not for this.
Yeah. What I do want to say some things. There's been some stuff in the private chat that we've spoken to, and then there's some responses coming. So, one, there's been 105 Bitcoin forks, and you can catch them on forkdrop.io.
105?
Yeah. So most of them.
I didn't know that. I thought there was only like maybe
most of them
20.
is like homeboy forking the code base and saying I got a new fork.
So most of them are really bad, like Bitcoin Cloud, Bitcoin Post Quantum, Bitcoin Top, Bitcoin Voto, Bitcoin United, Big Bitcoin, Bitcoin Candy,
Big
Bitcoin
Bitcoin.
Wonder,
Bitcoin Super. I remember
Bitcoin Pay, Bitcoin Hush, Quantum Bitcoin.
that. Yeah,
Are there any values to these? That's the thing. Supply ratio.
probably like
No.
pennies. It's gotta be pennies, Corey.
No, some of these are price per token 193,
Yeah.
67.
No way.
Because of supply. The supply was adjusted
Yeah.
down probably, so that they'll always maintain some sort of dollar
So-
value.
So
Fuck
there's
those people.
there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with over $1 value. No, sorry, 9.
Okay.
So there's 9 of them with over $1 value. There's 2 of them with over 10 cents value. There's 3 of them over $50 value, right? And so
That's a weird way of labeling them.
I'm just going off the top of my head, just like looking at the information, trying to digest it. But I was trying to bucket it into like how much fucking money Coinbase is sitting on because they have multiple copies of all of this stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
if
so
I log
there's
into Coinbase now, I'm not seeing all those.
Exactly. There's a large class action lawsuit that exists right now. So law lawyers listening, you're fucking welcome to go after Coinbase and try and get that forked.
Let's not promote that. I don't want that to happen.
I want to promote it.
I don't want that to
Coinbase
happen.
needs some.
I don't want that to happen.
Coinbase-
Those things are
look,
legitimate.
I
don't
hold
want-
my bros
It's like a
accountable.
DDoS vector.
I hold my bros accountable,
A
baby.
DDoS vector? Well, how do you think it's going to come back
Coinbase-
and bite D in the butt?
Coinbase is my bro.
Not DDoS.
Oh.
DDoS is a decentralized.
No. I know what a DDoS is. I'm asking you how do you think that D
Oh,
announced
if you force them to respond to anything that gets forked, then people just fork it into oblivion, and then they have to respond to all of them. Then they can't
So
answer
what you're saying is I'm introducing toxicity into the community.
into our city.
In our city. All right.
That shit out of here. There should be a threshold of legitimacy for them to have to respond, and none of those things meet it.
I've been watching Men in Black lately, and I wish I had one of those pins now where I could be like
Neuralizer.
everybody, neuralizer.
Mhm.
By the way, those are well-made movies, except for the most recent one with Tessa Thompson and that Australian guy who plays his Thor. That one was trash.
Liam?
Yeah, Liam. No, not Liam Neeson's.
Chris
You're talking
No.
about
Liam Hemsworth. Is that what his name is?
It's not
Yeah,
Liam
it's Chris
Hemsworth. Chris
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth.
Chris
Wait,
Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth? Oh, it was Chris, wasn't it?
Liam Hemsworth is the other guy who's not.
There's a
as
Liam Hemsworth.
bulky.
It's his brother.
Yeah, his brother.
His brother. Yeah.
Um,
I thought his brother was in the Men in Black one though.
I typed Liam Hemsworth, and it said net worth, girlfriend, brother, age. Those are my options for Google.
Oh, there is the interview now. Should we cut to the interview?
Is it there?
Yeah, Alicia just said we have
That's quick,
the
Alicia.
we now
That was
have the
alright.
Which the
interview.
Wild West still was the ticketing space. So I geared YellowHeart really at solving the problem for ticket scalping, which, in 19 before COVID was 11.5 billion a year in the US between concert, sports, and theater, pulled out of fans' hands and not given to the artists, the teams. That goes to this third party like industry that we call scalpers, ticket scalpers, or they call themselves ticket brokers, or and it was the space that as a music fan, a sports fan, I'm like, okay, why does it cost me $600 to take my kid to a Yankee game? Like, what's up with that? Why does it cost me $500 to take my wife to a concert? That's wrong. The tickets are like $120 each, like what's up with that? It's literally double marked up. And I realized that there was just this rampant middleman population, this rent-seeking middleman that just was sapping the fans, not helping the guys on stage in most cases. And I saw the use case, and the blockchain 1.0 use case just made sense for application to eliminate, fraud and counterfeiting and bad actors, and just keep transparency in an industry that's run wrought with lack of transparency and lack of any type of fundamental ethics, quite frankly, an industry that's just gone off the rails. So I thought it could reel it back in, and, here we are. So I'm going to stop there.
So why can you kind of go into like the small details about that third party leech? I mean, it's essentially a leech, right? And I've never been scalped before, but like how does it work and And just how did you see that YellowHeart can like stop that shit from happening?
So the way it works is what's called bots. And when you look at a company like Ticketmaster, they have very old technology, and basically all bots are computers that run faster than their computers. So what they do is they do what's called bot attacks, where they will go in and they will just attack it on sale. And what they will do is they will move tickets into a waiting room for checkout and never check out. And as they're getting ready to be redeployed, they'll pick them up and they'll just continue the process, in some cases for days, making it impossible for fans to actually buy tickets. So if you ever go to an on sale for your favorite band through Ticketmaster, like, you already know you're not getting tickets. They'll push you right to their own secondary, because what happened is they were getting so beat up. And what happens is the brokers send in these bots, and then they buy the best seats in the house and then a potpourri of other tickets, and they send them immediately to the secondary market. Once they go to the secondary market, they see what starts selling, and then they keep the bot game going on the on sale. And then the fan who wants the Metallica ticket, the Fish ticket, whatever it is, immediately is like, oh shit, it's sold out. And they go to the secondary, and now you're there. And in some cases, I've heard from bands like Metallica, it's gone on for days. I've heard from other people, shorter periods. But Ticketmaster has not done much to combat it. So when you dig in deeper, you start looking at like, okay, well, maybe there are other things going on there. And the onion just kind of keeps getting unpeeled.
So they just buy up all the supply or lock up all the supply and then send it to their market where they can control.
In some cases, it's bots. In some cases, it's the back door. It just really is a potpourri of inconsistency in most cases going on, and wheeling and dealing. And it's a little bit like the Wild West, and no regulation. And the irony of it is that the actual content owner, the artist, the performer, the team owner, whoever it might be, they're generally out of the equation at that point. The ticketing company might have pre-established a relationship, and now they're out wheeling and dealing, yet they're making the team or the artist look horrible to their fans who want to just get a freaking seat and see their favorite artist, and it's next to impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I can see like that dynamic exists in a lot of different things. Like, for instance, I'm into like keyboards in particular, and it's just like the shoe game where there are bots and they'll buy up supply and it's limited, and you go straight to secondary market and it's 2 to 3x times the original value. So
in this case, think about this. So like in your shoes or your keyboards, they're maybe in the shoes, it's a 5,000 drop, 10,000 drop. On an on sale for a concert, it could be 18,000, whatever the number is. Those tickets didn't actually sell out. The bots are just not letting them get bought because they're going into perpetual checkout, beating up Ticketmaster for hours at a time. So, and then when the action settles down, it lets go. So then the band is stuck with inventory unsold. The fans think it's sold out. It's not. And things just get weird. And then what Ticketmaster does is react.
What is Thamos? What does that mean?
Oh man, that's old school.
So Thamos is the original moderator of r/Bitcoin on Reddit, and he was the one that started introducing censorship into the subreddit for r/Bitcoin. And we thought it would be a good idea for about 5 to 10 episodes to call him Bitch Made randomly throughout the shows, because he was
apparently
censoring.
Owns Bitcoin Talk too.
Yeah, and he also owns Bitcoin Talk. So like he was censoring. I got censored by him. I personally got censored by him. I put a post up and it was just zapped. And I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even say anything. I just said that maybe big blocks is not such a bad idea, and it got zapped like immediately. So I was like, oh wow, they are censoring people in there. And that's kind of like, I don't know, one thing I will say that it's bitch made, right? And one thing that Satoshi did say that has really come true and like is why crypto is as chaotic as it is today, to date, is he was like, once the hard fork of Bitcoin is going to spell like I don't know what's going to happen after that. He was like, when Bitcoin hard forks, like it could be cataclysmic and make everything go to zero and this whole experiment's done, or it's new. Crypto's new from that point forward. And I think Satoshi is very right about that. Like crypto has been new since Bitcoin hard forked really hard to have Bitcoin Classic Bitcoin Cash. What was it called that everybody hated? Like you might get fought. Bitcash?
No, Bcash.
Bcash. If you call it Bcash, you know.
Yeah, so
got so mad about
I will
that.
say it made quite a big maybe understanding that you can have a contentious hard fork and both networks can survive and live on and be separated and continue on developing in different directions. Mm-hmm. And the users of the original chain end up with like multiple coins, which then made it an argument for people to say, why don't we just fork things and try and convince people otherwise that we're legitimate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like that wasn't really a thing, like right? Like beforehand it was like, let's fork the code base, start a new network, and then try and convince people to use that and mine it. And then see if we can pump and dump that. And that was like, how can we convince them to fork the code base? That's basically an airdrop for most people. Like it's almost the equivalent of an airdrop. Because the same address in a lot of ways has coins in it. They just need to go claim them and do something with them. And the more that people claim and do something with them, the more it legitimizes volume of that network. Which then they can then boost as we're legitimate because there's a bunch of volume. Mm-hmm. Regardless of whether people are just trying to sell the shit out of it. Right? Like, and so like that type of uncertainty and complexity and weirdness leaves a lot of room for people to start doing scams or like trying new things. And that was the first time I think that really happened. Oh, we've got Batman here, so take care of these guys.
Batman's here to
see the bat light thing, you know?
Yeah.
The wind's catching my cape.
I do wish
we're supposed to do
Batman's
a commercial
voice.
with our flaming hot Cheetos, and we all forgot them.
Oh my god!
The flaming hot Cheetos.
I destroyed the bag that I bought for the commercial.
Jesse, I swear, I wish
I
you
have
were
my
Batman.
Cheetos.
And when you hopped on the scene, you would say like, "Hey, I'm here. I see the little light. I see it. I see the bat light up there. I'm here. What's up? We got some justice that needs to go down, or
Daniel has 2 bags. Daniel's waiting to eat them too, like Batman is.
You know why you can't be Batman, bro? You have a very, very recognizable mole right above your lip there.
No, dude, they'll never know. They'll never know. They'll never know. Have you seen? Look at Clark Kent just takes his glasses off. I mean, let's be real.
Hey, in his defense, I look starkly different with or without my glasses.
Yeah, I've never recognized you with glasses on. You're just a regular ass black dude with glasses on.
Mm-hmm. So why are your eyes glowing now, Jesse?
I don't, the danger is here. I can sense. It's like my spidey senses. It's like Batman though.
You can't cross universes like that, bro.
Oh, okay.
It's DC or it's Marvel. Pick one.
All right. Look at Daniel.
No one cares. All right, let's wrap up.
Yeah, let's
all right, we got a
save the city
wrap. If you like this episode, please do the things. Oh, I gotta go do the spiel. Got the spiel here.
Do your thing.
So what do we got going? What do we got? Patreon. Become a patron. Go to patreon.com/the Bitcoin Podcast and become a patron. All right. Join the Slack. Go to the bitcoinpodcast.com. Can't concentrate with you in that Batman cowl.
All right, here I got you. Here we go.
Okay.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
I have this thing. Hold on. I gotta get past all this shit that I have on. So, got some
What is that?
drywall on it.
Is that a Grid Plus?
This is a Grid Plus.
What the fuck, man? I wanted one of those. They told me how to do all kinds of shit.
I got the safeguard and I got the actual Lattice 1.
Should we do a giveaway?
So No, fuck that. That's mine.
Oh.
I don't know what this is. This is
I'm gonna do
smartphone, right?
I'm gonna do an opening.
No,
and I'm gonna
no,
do
no.
a bunch of
No?
kind
A
of like.
wallet?
I'm gonna test it
It's
in
a
a lot of
terminal.
ways. I want to make sure that it works as
okay.
intended, and see if I can break it without actually like opening it up, because it has tamper evidence type stuff. So that if you open it up and break one of those tamper things, it'll break the whole system, make it unusable. So I'm not going to do that because I actually want to use it, unless they decide to give me a new one. Then I will try that. But how do you want to do this content?
Well, first of all, I
Wait,
want one too,
you
and
do
so
that.
does Jessie. So how did you get
Yeah.
those? Because we want them.
I'll take one.
Yeah. What
Watch
the
me
hell?
on Twitter, bro.
What
do you
does
mean?
that even
I asked Grid Plus. I was like, hey, I want to break the last one. They're like, hey, all right, we'll send you one. And that's what
I have
happened.
20 followers on Twitter, Corey.
Oh, you're not gonna get there.
I'm right behind you, think, Corey. I might be able to get one.
Well, they're also looking for security researchers to just try and break last one. I don't think
I could physically
you
try and break
hitting
it.
it with a hammer is what they're looking for.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm gonna drop your Grid Plus from 3 stories up.
Yeah, I'm trying
See
to
if it
trick it
survives.
to do things it shouldn't do.
Okay.
To try and find ways that they didn't like think about. You're gonna hit it with a hammer. So like
I got a
that's
question
why I have
for you.
one.
Just let me know yes or no. If you do find a way to break it, can you tell them I found that way to break it so I can get paid that bounty?
No.
Okay. Just a question.
But-
Just throw it out there.
But it will go to whatever we end up making with the Bitcoin podcast, though.
If you break it and they give you a bounty payout,
If I get any bounties, it's going to the podcast. Put it
Put
that way.
it down. All right.
If I get any money from breaking this, or any bounties associated with it, it'll go towards the Bitcoin Podcast Network and its community.
we should make
Good
a
luck.
shirt that says "Put it in a down." Put it in a down.
I think Alicia can just like clip that and then send that waveform to D.
Put it in the down. Anyways, guys, iTunes reviews. Here's one. Oh, that's a lot. Is it fitting? Here's an example of an iTunes review that you can give. Okay, and I'm gonna read what it's supposed to say because I don't think it's all fitting, Alicia. But it says, I see what you're trying to do here. It says, Corey Dimitrick, host of the Bitcoin podcast. Where's Jessie?
I'm like omitted from all of these reviews
We don't like
for better or
Jessie.
for
Jessie's
worse.
not really here.
Why is Corey Dimitrick host?
We only keep him around for his hair.
Highlights all aspects. Yeah, that's the only reason. Let it loose, Jesse. All right. The host expert guests offer insightful advice and information that's helpful to anyone that listens. Erica Bushwell via Apple Podcasts. She was in the United
you,
States
Erica.
of America. Thank you, Erica. Yeah, so give
love
us
you.
a review like that. Not like wartime BCV, who was basically like, Corey is a bitch, D's a cuck, I'm gonna kill him. We were like, what? Where is this?
Why? He's like, because they said things other than Bitcoin.
Yeah. So there's a guy on Twitter that wants to kill us. His name is Wartime. Or
That's a good
sorry,
name.
I can't say
That's
that.
a weird name that a parent would give somebody. I don't understand
Hold
that.
up. I can't say that, Corey. He doesn't want to kill us. He says he wants to give us special thanks, which could be anything from like.
I got enough special thanks from the people
Bro.
I care about.
If you want to give me, if you want to give me
I'm not into
special,
that. I'm married, man.
you give me a special thanks, bro. Send me an oatmeal pie. I haven't had one of those in a while. I'll take it as a fair.
You know what I would like? It would be cool if like. So I used to listen to this podcast. God, it was a data science podcast. I forgot what it was actually called.
You would.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of data science stuff. And like one of the underlying themes of the podcast was today we're drinking. So like in the beginning of the podcast, they would go around the room of like what they were drinking for that episode. And a part of like basically like they just got a bunch of free alcohol all the time because people who like the show just sent them alcohol to drink to talk about on the show. Let's do that.
I'm not an alcoholic.
All right, get some yerba mate or some good tea or I don't know what the fuck you want.
I'm a functioning alcoholic, Jesse, and let me tell you something. That's a great idea, Corey.
That's
That's
a
a
great
great
All
idea.
right, don't send it to Jesse. Fuck that guy. Send it to me and D, and we'll talk about it. And D and Jesse can drink his giant thing of water.
Corey, what you should, or Jesse, what you should do is start having a hanging keyboard that you type on during the episode.
A
And
hanging
say like,
keyboard.
like,
This
oh,
is
I love
your,
this
behind your
keyboard.
desk, just like, look at
I
this
love
awesome
this
keyboard.
I love this keyboard so much. I love keyboards. We love keyboards. The
And then
Bitcoin podcast.
hopefully we get a
loves keyboards.
sponsorship from a keyboard designer. Okay.
I'm not
you
gonna
can't
lie.
hear my
You're,
keyboard clack, so I'm
Jesse's,
really amazed at how well my filtering software takes out my keyboard.
If I could describe Jesse's salesmanship style, it is like is cultivation. It is farming. Because 3 months ago I was like, yeah, my keyboard's just fine. But then he sent me something today, and I'm like, my keyboard's not as good as that keyboard. I might need that keyboard. Do I like keyboards now? I think I like keyboards now. So like, so I find
You're getting
myself like,
incepted.
yeah, clicking on my laptop like this just isn't cutting it. This isn't cutting
You
it.
should let me. You should let me build you something. Commission something.
Oh, for
through me.
sure. Build me a keyboard, Jesse. I'll use it in a heartbeat.
First, you gotta do
I'll
some of
talk
those
about
boots.
it. I'll tell my friends about it.
Yeah. Like
It better
he
have
sent
a
me
good.
this-
It better be aesthetically pleasing, though.
He sent me a keyboard today that is made out of.
I'm not doing it for free, Corey. You're gonna have to pay for the materials. I'll do the labor to assemble it because that shit's fucking like 16 hours. I'll do that shit for free, but you better buy all the parts. But I'll
How
make
much
it good.
How much you talking about?
It depends. Entry level's like entry level. It's like $500 for the whole thing.
Jesse, man, like, why don't you
We
just
need a
make it like
sponsor. We definitely need a sponsor.
make
That's
it
what
like
I've
a
been
thing
saying.
that you
Try
do,
to find
like,
one.
I got
Why
a
don't you-
DOS keyboard. This shit is baller.
bro. Look at my shit.
Cherry
right here,
MX
bro.
Reds. Go fuck yourself. I don't need that.
It's fucking
No,
razor.
I
Once-
got
once
I got
you-
I got a
once you try
Fanatic
it,
too.
Corey-
I got all kinds of
No.
keyboards on the
Once
desk.
you
I
try
got
it,
multiple
Corey,
keyboards.
you
on
won't
my
go
desk.
back. I can't even pick up my keyboard. It's a little bit too heavy.
Logitech,
You
baby.
even want like
No.
a Magic keyboard? I got that too.
I got that
I got keyboards on my desk.
All right. So, what else? Let's do some shout outs and let's call it that. Who is that? Who is that? No, go back. I'm trying to figure out who that is. Oh, let me. Who is that? Who's that?
Oh,
Is
that's
that
an ass.
Salita? Is that Salita? No. Well, who? That's Tiana Taylor. That's Tiana Taylor. That's Salita Ebanks. She was.
I'm gonna check out.
So-
See you guys later.
Funny story about Salita Ebanks. Is no, you're giving some shout outs too, Corey.
No, I'm not.
So I went to field training, Air Force field training, and one of my best friends in life sent me a picture of her in a bikini, which got immediately confiscated when I opened the mail. Because at that point in my life, I was like, Salita Ebanks, I'm gonna do everything in my power to be this woman's man. I'm gonna be her king. It didn't work out, quite obviously. She's now. That is.
I can be your hero, baby.
That's Ashwari Ray. Shout out to you. Shout out to Fergie from Black Eyed Peas.
What the?
Shout out to what are you doing, Jesse? What was that?
I don't know what that was. Don't.
Shout out
pay
to
attention
her.
to that.
That is Becky Lynch.
her.
That
Oh,
is
we're going
in
to the White Redheads. This is supposed to be where I'm supposed to be pretty good about this.
Yeah,
I'm
this is
not.
you. These shout outs are for you.
I don't know
bro.
who any of these people are. So
You don't know who that is.
That's Emma Stone.
that's not Emma Stone.
That was
All right,
Emma
who's
Stone.
that?
The previous one was
No
Emma Stone.
way. That's
That's
not
Emma Stone.
That's Emma Stone.
That's
55?
Emma Stone.
That's Emma Stone.
Yeah.
That's
Who's
Amelia
that?
Clark. That's Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
Theron.
I don't know who that is.
Oh,
She's
That's
from
for you. That's
the
all you, buddy.
That's
Marching
Michelle Yao.
Tiger-
No, that's
Michelle-
Asian. That's all you, man.
Yao.
This is your turn.
That's not the way it's supposed to be designed, Corey. It kind of is that way. All right.
I don't know who
We
that
gotta
lady
wrap it because
is.
I gotta run.
Yeah.
Run. But Zati Beats, play the outro.